So where do you think everything is going now? Because lean is just, it's obviously you can't even really do lean depending on the industry right now. So and I realize we've been moving in that direction for so long.
Yeah,
so where do you?
Let's talk about. I love that question. Let's talk about Idaho manufacturers that are scaling and trying to take a swing. How?
And I've helped some here locally, so I can relate to it. I think to your question, Nick, you have to be really hyper focused on what is your products, what's your key product mix, where you can make money. You know, you have to look at I always look at what are your risks. I mean, we'll really put a risk mitigation plan on. I'll pick on a local manufacturer here that we had to get to dual source, triple source constraints to know that if it was one key component that would hold them up from actually delivering their product, you had to get them. Some of those we had to bring back in house. We actually had to buy equipment, CNC machines to be able, so they wouldn't go down. Now that wasn't their prime mix. They shouldn't be building those all the time every day because they couldn't compete cost-wise. But to your point with supply chain constraints, if you can't count on your one vendor, and a lot of times local companies just have that one vendor, we had a dual source. So we had to start shopping around, looking for other vendors and bidding for it. It's a pain, but it makes good business sense. The next thing you know, you got two sources versus one. And then from there, you can also, but it's a best practice, honestly. With Boeing, we had the same thing at a large scale, or up to any other manufacturing company I work for. But so I think the dual source strategy is a good one. You also have to think outside the box, any critical component that maybe you bring some of that in house. It's not, I mean, you don't have to do it forever, but maybe right now it makes sense to do stuff like that. But you got to get aggressive. And a lot of times when you have dual source strategies too, your prices come down sometimes too, because now you're competing against each other. And say you need 100 a month, give each one 50, you know, do 50 and 50, or turn the dial up 75. So even at Micron, we would have, we used to get mad because you can never win 100% of the deal. Like for example, we're selling into Apple, or you're selling into, I don't know, Samsung, somebody, but at the end of the day, they're only going to buy, 40% from you. And then they're going to buy the other from Toshiba. They're going to buy the other from Samsung. They're going to Hynix. The list went on because they never wanted to give you 100%, because if they had 2 or 3 other bidding on it, they could knock the price down. And plus, if something went wrong in your facility where you can't keep up with it, they just turn the dial. So they're all about dials to turn it up and turn it down. So a lot of times the terms get better over time. You got multiple sources now. And then as you scale, you can turn those dials up with either one. So that's just one area, but it can save you dollars. It's just tough out there. Like I said, we brought some stuff in-house. We bought in bulk. We bought some stuff, like we didn't want to carry those inventory costs. Well, what do you do? We actually did the math, and we were averaging with local manufacturers about $1 million, $2.5 million a month in revenue. And then we had dropped with supply chain challenges down to 600-700K. So literally in half. So one of the strategies that we did there was we bought in bulk. We looked at what are the critical components that we're not going to be able to ship this product, because if you don't have this or that, what are those? And then we said, all right, let's double down, triple down, the best that we can, go buy in bulk and carry those inventory costs.
And taking on some of that risk right now, which I think 2 years ago you wouldn't have taken on, is everything, because even your competitors in that case can't get that material if they don't take that risk. And so now you're pushing your competitors out as well.
Right.
And we were talking to one of our customers, and they said, we're looking down this list of things that we're now able to get, and we get down to this one critical item. It's like, oh yeah, that's 52 weeks away though. Everything else you can get right now, and that's because everybody bought that.
Well, you nailed it, Derek. We went and looked longest lead items. You had your whole list, and if it was 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 16, you went through that whole BOM based on those, that product or product mix back into where you're making the most amount of money on your margins, and then back into that whole BOM structure, and then go to your longest, what we call tent pole, and then go look at that, and what is it? Where are you getting it from? Is it single source? Is it dual source? And making sure. One of the things I also did was I put a quality scorecard, vendor quality scorecard in place. So we really talked about what are the top 4 to 5 things that we care about from these vendors. Of course, quality, on-time delivery, price. Price was not always it. Those, especially today's times, can you get the product? And then we started making sure we were tight with our vendors. We weren't so much before. It's like, yeah, once a year you go out to lunch with Bob or have coffee with Sue or whatever. But it was like, now we need to do a better job of planning and really making sure where they stand, and if there's any challenges on their end, we know about it. And then have those forecasting discussions with them as part of a partnership and say, hey, here's where we're headed. And we shared 2 to 3 quarters out where we were headed and why. So it got really close on the relationship side, just as much as if they had issues that, let's have a phone call or reach out to us. And then we had to adjust, but it was dialing in that long lead items and then getting aggressive on how else can you get those and what other sources can you get them from. So you really got to think outside the box.
Well, and your systems had better be dialed in if you're going to be looking at it that way and being and able to analyze it the way you need to analyze it, right?
Yeah, some of those smaller ones here, it's some of the stuff in spreadsheets is good enough at some point. But yeah, to your point, as you start to scale, it can get challenging. So.